something that I consider to be very cool, and I wanted to tell you about it. I made a Facebook post. Now, I know that sounds very pedestrian, and it
No,
can't.
no, no, that's okay because I'm delinquent in mine. So hey, kudos to you. It's like,
Okay, so here's the deal. I made a Facebook post that really showed a very quirky side of myself. Something that could be funny, or somebody who was very prim and proper, let's say about organizational things, may take issue with it and think, well, what the heck is she doing? But I decided it was worth a go. So I put on my big girl pants and I made the post. And nothing has happened to me. I'm
you're still
still alive,
alive.
still
Ooh,
Barbara.
yay.
No darts thrown my way. What do you think about that?
It as you were explaining it, I'm thinking it sounds almost like there was some hesitancy, some fear of pushing the button to publish that post. Um, it's
Well, isn't fear a funny word when one is talking about making a Facebook post? But I bet if we really canvassed people, especially the ones who are a little bit remiss in posting regularly or even at all, we would find, okay, not throwing any darts your way, but we would find that people have a fear. And I think it's the fear. As a matter of fact, I know it's the fear because I've had it and still do. What are they going to think? And who is they? It's not just my Facebook friends, but I think it's especially those friends that I know well, people I've worked with, people I socialize with, people that I see on a regular basis. What will they think? And yeah, you can call that fear because in actuality it is.
yeah, well, and that's just one area I think as entrepreneurs that the fear creeps in. I think of writing an email and oh, how long does it take me? And I'm going over the words and it's like, oh, what if, what I want them to open it, everybody on my list, I want them to read it, but oh, what are they going to think? It's like, does this make sense? And boy, a lot of time gets wasted, I think.
Ton of time. I have been known, and I'm a writer, to perseverate over a word and do a small fake focus group in my family. How does this sound? I'll say. The fact of the matter is, probably people don't read it with that much of a magnifying glass that looks at every word. But again, the bottom line is you got to be fearless. Just like my bracelet says, you got to be fearless. And if you have an idea, if it's within, when I say decorum, I mean, if it doesn't push boundaries, it's not obscene, insulting, but it's just quirky and something deep in my heart, I know it. And today I just did that, and I'm living here to tell that tale.
Well, I think that's some really good soapbox wisdom, Barbara. I'm appreciating it as you're talking about it. So, this thing with the fear, I think even when we decide to become an entrepreneur, we're just like so passionate about what we do and we're going to help people, and we don't realize that fear slowly creeps in to these different areas of our business, and it's more than just, "Oh, I'm afraid I'm gonna fail," there's so many other areas that it creeps in.
Yeah, it's not actually about failure. It really is the sort of being defined by other people.
Mhm.
And it really is second guessing yourself because you are afraid of what other people will think and what they say or what they will say. I, every day, every year, every week, every month, I find little ways to get beyond that. And one way is that I really do believe that each one of us has to tell our story. I mean, that
Mm.
story is a narrative of who we are at a point in time. And it includes our vision for ourselves, our vision for the world, our if we're an entrepreneur, it includes the vision for the people we serve in life, it includes our family and our friends. And if you start looking at your everyday life and experience in the context of story, it begins to give you a different perspective, and it helps you shed some of these concerns you have about what everybody else will think. In
Mm.
fact, it's a mechanism that draws people to you, that enables you to find alignments with others and have other people say, "Oh, wow, look what she did. That's
Yeah.
like something I've done. I want to share that as well."
Well,
It's very self-perpetuating.
okay, so it sounds really good, Barbara. I appreciate that, but boy, talking story, I've had moments of thinking, well, I don't really have much of a story. Uh, I'm afraid to say personal things or how I feel about something. So, yeah, as much as yes, I know, and I know, for several years now, coach has been talking about, the importance of getting story out. I totally get it, but it's not that easy all the time. Um,
People have trouble with it. That's one of the
yeah.
hardest things, because I teach stories, so to speak. I live by it for my work, and what I find is that people say just what you said. I don't have a story, but in fact, you do. If if you really sit back and think about it, think about the things that happen to you, think about the interactions, think about the things that you're even afraid of, that you're having problems with, and ways that you've conquered them, and what
Mhm.
life looks like after you do. That's a story.
Well,
And it
and
has
okay,
a lesson.
so I should share with you, Barbara, though, too. I have recently incorporated a little bit of my story in the talk that I give about being profitably productive. It's very personal. My daughter is part of the story, and I've gotten great responses from the few times that I've used it. So I'm feeling better about putting story into what I do and what I share. Um, and I think and it has given me some self-empowerment, since I did start, and this is just very recently that I started to incorporate, this part of my life into my talk. So, I hope our listeners are hearing this of just get over that hurdle and the empowerment that you'll feel afterwards will help to keep going, uh, with sharing more story, with, letting that fear behind, and like you said earlier about doing your Facebook post, it's like, "And you survived." Yes, I've survived too. And
Well, that's showing your vulnerability. We've talked about our families a little bit, so I know a little bit about your daughter, but when you come open like that, it is showing your vulnerability to other people.
Mhm.
And in my book, showing your vulnerability is the greatest strength and the greatest power that any of us have. And when you do it and when you eke it out, it is very self empowering. And when you can look back on yourself and reflect, wow, this is how I handled that, and that was pretty cool. You raise your hand in the air in that kind of Rocky salute, when he ran up the steps in the park in Philadelphia. And it's a it's a small win, but it's a win. And when you then celebrate that win, you
Mhm.
feel 10 feet tall, and it's
Mhm.
very empowering, and it enables you to take the next step. So whether it's a Facebook post or what you're saying in a speech, you're empowered and even in a better position to do more of that. And
Mhm.
it actually becomes fun.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and in one of our previous conversations, Barbara, you there was three things that you felt something about doing it for you do it and then what should we do with that after we do it? We um something about take a look at what we've already done. What is that again?
Yes, so once you do it, you do step back objectively and you take a look at how it's landed. Did you think your audience, if you're giving a speech, actually laughed at that little phrase of humor you stuck in? Were they moved by a story that tugged at the heartstrings for one reason or another? So you definitely evaluate it. And
Mhm.
then when you take that evaluation into account, you make adjustments as necessary. Or if you feel that it was a resounding win, you dig deep to find more stories like that, and you tell them, whether it's in a Facebook post, whether it's in a speech, whether it's when you're talking to a client, whether it's in a blog or as you write your website content. You
Mhm.
adjust or do more of the same accordingly.
So Barbara, now, okay, so you're sounding like the authority here. But I'm wondering, uh, when you struck out on your own to write, on your in your own business, I'm thinking there was some fear there. Now I know you said earlier about the Facebook post, but I'm thinking there were some other areas that it might have creeped in also, or maybe it still is creeping in. I know I'm it's still with me at times, that fear of picking up the phone and making a phone call.
Well, I think that we have that every day. But when I first started out on my own, I was out of corporate life.
Mm,
And I always had a support system, even though my work was editorially based and I got feedback on my work. I always had a support system. And by the way, I could get immediate feedback. But when you go out on your own as an entrepreneur, it's the great unknown, right?
mhm.
And I remember getting emails or doing research on what other people in my field were doing. And so many of them had MBAs in marketing from Harvard. And I thought, OMG, how can I go up against this crew? And then for some reason, and I'm not sure where it came from, but maybe I realized that I was always telling stories, that I had made my career by my pen, if you will. And I realized that why stories had value. People started to talk about story and how important it was. And I realized why they had value, because it was connective tissue with your audience. And then I realized, as I became acutely aware of things that happened to me, I had the best tool in my toolbox of all. I had life. And just as you use that story of your daughter,
Mhm.
life is an amazing proving ground, and it's full of wonderful stories with great lessons that can apply to your point in life, can apply to your business. Really a wonderful thing. You just have to take notice.
Mm.
Look, you did that, and you see the benefit that it really.
Right. Yeah, and that's I mean, I've been told for how many years about putting story into, everything that you do, really. And it like I say, it was just recently that I added it into, well, it's even a new talk that I do about profitable productivity. That sidebar here, people are loving my talk. So maybe if a listener would like to have me in to talk about profitable productivity, just let me know. I just wanted to say that.
On a
Uh,
sidebar also, Christine is superlative about productive systems that reap results and get you to profit and get you to business growth. Sidebar over.
Thank you for that. Um, yeah, it really has opened up ideas for me too, of how else I can be using it in other areas of my business, and yeah, it's opening up doors to get over that fear, get over myself. Uh, was a big part for me. Um, but yeah.
You realize, you know, you realize it becomes fun. And I think fun is very important in life. I think to be serious,
Mhm.
you have to have fun. So when I use fun, I don't want to trivialize even the most serious of stories. But again, when you have fun with something, when you feel good about something, when you can give it that Rocky
Mm.
salute, um, it's joyous. It is fun, and it just spurs you on, and that's a truly great thing. You know, just this one little story about my mother, and you've perhaps heard me speak about my mother before. She was an incredible woman, very resilient, and just days before she died, she said to my daughter and me that it was her time and that she was ready because she'd had a great life. She had great family, great friends. And then there was a slight pregnant pause. And then she said, great clothes. Because my mother was a fashionista, a clothes horse, and she took very much pride in her appearance. It was part of who she was, and it made her feel good both inside and out, and it gave her the empowerment to move forward. And I did her eulogy, and there I was, governed by the externals, because I only gave two of those examples. Great family, great friends. I couldn't have asked for a better life. And if I had to go back 20 years and do it again, believe me, I would add great clothes, because that was full bodied Peg, my mom. And that showed all sides of her personality and the wonderful, humorous, ebullient person that she was. So I missed
Yeah.
out and I short
Wow.
shrifted her. That's why you got to
Yes.
for the dust.
Yes, you did. I mean, and that's a time where you needed a little levity too, I would imagine. The those are the best, services is when you can have some laughs. That's so sorry about that.
Well,
Um,
I know she probably knows and she's forgiving me. She was a great lady, though, a great, great lady.
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, the levity, being fun and whatnot, that's another area I'm working on. Uh, Again, when I present, when I'm speaking live or online, I have fun with my audience. It's in other areas that it's, oh, got to do a Facebook Live. Okay, I can give some particulars here. This is how you do this, and But now it's like, no, I have to infuse more fun into everything that I'm putting out, and that's like all these different medias. It's not always easy to infuse the fun and levity. And it's not saying you need it. It's definitely not all the time, but you have to, like you said, show some of it at times. Um, but it's not always easy in the different medias, I think.
But truth is stranger than fiction. And so you don't have to be a comedian per se You don't have to know how to tell a good joke,
Mhm.
but you can recount a story or a piece of a story, something that made you laugh. And as you recount it, it can make the audience laugh as well. So, again, just as there are stories around, there's a lot of humor around too.
Mm.
The important thing is that we just have to keep looking for it. And when we find something interesting, we have to ask, what does that mean? Does that have value? Can I use that somewhere to prove a point? Basically, we always have to be on the lookout. And
Mhm.
honestly, you get a lot of appreciation of life doing that.
Mhm. Yes. Yes, we do.
So, any final comments that you'd like to make about quelling that fear of what others will think and going for the gusto instead?
Well, Barbara, coming away from this conversation, I cannot go back and be in fear. I don't think. I think after this conversation, I have to declare I will be fearless. I will put myself out there more.
Yes.
Going forward from this point on, now, how about you? How do you feel?
Well, I would say that you and I, having talked about this, we're going to make a commitment. I hope our listeners will make a commitment as well. Pinkies to God, cross our hearts, Girl Scout pledge. We are going to be fearless in what we show the world about ourselves. We're going to give life meaning, give our work meaning, and we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun while we're doing it. Does that sound like a good rule of thumb, Christine?
Sounds good to me, Barbara. And I'd love to hear from our listeners. If you want to put something in the chat, if you're with us on being fearless, that would be awesome.
And just keep thinking of that word, fearless. And when we come back next time, we may continue this conversation a little, and we hope we'll have some words for you from you to give us more thought to the subject. In the meantime, have a good few weeks.